Uh, Many members of the public, thanks for coming. And all those people out in cyberspace, if there's anybody out there. Is there anybody online?
Where we do have 4 attendees tonight.
Okay.
So
welcome.
representatives for both applications are here.
Alrighty, welcome everybody. Meeting number 2607, July 16th. Planning and Boone Adjustment Committee. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have a quorum, so call the meeting to order. And item number 1 is approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda as presented. Second.
Okay, moved by Dan, second by Brian. Break the question, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried, thank you, Lorraine. Item number 2, approval of our minutes from our June 18th meeting. Everybody has a copy of the minutes, I presume. Any errors or omissions? Otherwise, we look for a motion.
I move to accept them.
Okay,
Second.
moved by Brian, second by Raymond. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 3 is a declaration of conflict of interest. This is the time that if anybody on the committee has a conflict with any of the files we have tonight, now is the time to declare. Hearing none, we'll move directly to the variance application. Item 26-07-04, Amsterdam Inn and Suites. Now to present it.
Yeah. Bear with me for a minute.
Just for the member of the public, the way we do these is because this one is a variance. The first one to speak, staff makes their presentation. And then the applicant speaks if they're here and they wish to. And then anybody else that is in favor would speak. And then we ask if anybody's in opposition and they would speak, and then the applicant would have a chance to respond to that. So that's the way we conduct this one.
All right. It's an application by the Amsterdam Inn and Suites. As many people know, there's a proposed 80-room hotel with restaurant and conference facilities proposed for 19 Bud Avenue in St. Stephen. This is in the U3 zone of the St. Stephen zoning bylaw. And there's a couple decisions that need to be made for the zoning approval. There's 4 variances that are requested, and 1 terms and conditions. So we've lumped these together into 1 report for PRAC's consideration, but we'll talk about them separately. So in general, the municipal plan is very supportive of this hotel development occurring. As many know, there was a previous hotel project for that site that fell through, but it was a strong will of the community to see something hotel developed there. So in the municipal plan, there's policy that supports actively encouraging and incentivizing hotel development. So the applicant who's here tonight, Don Sterrick, is representing the owner, St. Stephen Amsterdam Inn and Suites Limited, so the company that's incorporated for this development. And they're going to be able to speak to any specific questions about the project. So here's what the proposed development looks like. And for maybe anybody in the audience who wants to see, there's a couple extra files here that we can distribute. Yeah. I think many people are probably familiar with the site. It's a pretty prominent location in this community. Fronts right onto St. Croix River along Bud Avenue. The front lot line is actually the lot line facing the Barcelona Civic Center parking lot and Five Kings Restaurant. That would be toward this way. This would be considered a frontage yard. The rear lot line is, in this case, would be along this lot line, which is shared with the town on the with the trail and the utility pumping station. So the trail along the water is considered part of the coastline trail, signature trail according to the province of New Brunswick. The property is subject to 2100 estimation for flooding. So there's flood hazard designation here that needs to be considered, and we'll go through that later on.
Get a menu on the screen there. Gonna kill that.
Oh, thank you. Okay. So this project, as I said, involves 80 rooms, hotel, 187 vehicle parking spaces, 31 bicycle parking spaces, 25 trees around the parking facilities. And there was a couple issues that were resolved. There was potential for additional variances related to the parking layout, but the applicant resolved that with increasing the radius on the driveway curbing and adding the bicycle parking as well. So just a few bike racks. The building height is one of the factors for the variance. The building height maximum for the full story of the structure is 12.5 meters. And as you can see here, there is a measurement of 13.2 meters, which is the top of the story of the habitable area. But there's also this measurement here, the 16.46 meters, and that extends to the full height of the projection. So we would consider this would be similar to an architectural projection that you'd have in the case of a church steeple. When you measure the building height of a church, you don't go to the full extent of the steeple. You would exclude that as a projection. And in cases like this, we want to look at the main building massing, the building height, and the 16.46 meters can be dealt with separately as a architectural projection. So the second variance here is the location of the parking. So the structure is the sort of the foundation is being augmented and being reused for this hotel development. And the way this was situated, it required the developer to look at the hotel in the middle of the property. Normally, what would happen is if it's a new development, the building would be brought closer to the front lot line. In this case, they're using a pre-existing structure. So, with the variance related to the parking in front of the building, that is something that is sort of a condition of the fact they're dealing with a pre-existing pad. With a project like this, there's options for tree planting that would require them to put trees in the middle of the parking. But here they're looking to actually use part of the right of way for some of their tree planting requirements. The trees, what they do for parking is actually a couple things. Aesthetically, they look very nice as the trees mature. But they also provide shade and drainage for parking facilities. So there's actually absorption of water that comes off of an impervious surface like a parking lot. But there's options for a developer to do this. In the bylaw, it allows for the developer to put the trees around the parking lot or in strips, landscaping strips between rows of parking. In this case, the developer is not wishing to look at putting the parking in the strips between rows of parking because it can impede snow plowing equipment. So they're looking to go around the parking lot. But in this case, given the constraints of the site, they have looked at and have asked the municipality if there's an option to encroach into Bud Avenue for some of the parking facilities and some of the tree planting requirements. And Public Works has looked at this, and the administration has no objections in principle to this. They still need to do a formal agreement to allow that to happen. But there's examples where the municipality has allowed for parking facilities and other encroachments like this, like sidewalk patios, etc., fire escapes, other things that can facilitate a development happening. So in general, municipality is not against that, but they do have a limit on what kinds of trees are planted specifically along this part of Bud Avenue because sewer and water mains are running right there. So consideration of what gets planted there is part of it. The other landscaping requirement for new parking lots is having a screening facility between an adjoining lot and a parking lot, a larger parking lot. And this would be a case where, let's say you have a residential house next to a commercial development and there's a lot of commercial traffic. Having a screening facility is important to make sure that there's some privacy. And in this case, the only lot line they'd have to consider would be the one shared with the pump house and that segment of trail, the old gravel trail. So there really isn't a value or necessary need for having a screening facility along that lot line. So they're asking for relief from the bylaw requirement to put up a fence along the eastern lot line. Again, if there was a house or somebody lived there, a screening facility might make a sense, but not here. As we talked about the water hazard. So one of the things the developer has looked at is the height of the slab in consideration for future sea level rise, and the engineers have evaluated it. There's no concern for where the building is located at its current elevation, but there should also be consideration for the parking. When the grading is brought in for the parking, the elevation should be checked to make sure it's at least 5.7. This would prevent it being inundated regularly by the tide and a king tide event in 2100. And so that's just it's in a consideration that in future generations will not have to deal with an issue of raising the parking lot after the fact. Right. Yeah. So the rooftop architectural feature there. So like I said, there's the main massing building height, 13.2 meters from grade, and then there is the furthest extension of the building at 16.46. There is a mechanism for the committee just to approve these things with terms and conditions, meaning architectural projections of non-habitable story can happen. It's part of the design of this building. And if you see the profile of the building, this portion that has the sign New Amsterdam Inn and Suites faces toward the river. And that projection isn't the whole length of the building. So the main building massing is the area above those rooms you would see. Whereas that piece that has the sign is just sort of particular tower or projection that comes off the building. So it provides an architectural cornice and feature for the building that has aesthetic value. But the committee can look at a projection like that, and it doesn't need a variance, but it just needs to be considered in terms of what is there any potential impact for having a height projection above the height limits. So in this case, what staff would recommend, given that it's non-habitable space, is just to make that the condition, that doesn't become part of the additional story of the building. So there's 4 variances. And what we would recommend is that the committee approve the variances in support of the project, and that the conditions for the approval are the following. 1, that there's written public works approval, so the municipality does an approval of encroachment into the public right-of-way for the installation of parking facilities and trees. 2, that the parking elevation be developed at a geodetic height of at least 5.7 above the projected sea level rise. And 3, that all paving, curbing, and parking facilities and tree planting be completed per the submitted site plan before the final building inspection of the hotel superstructure. So that's the first one. And I can go back to this, Mr. Chair, if we need to when you get into your deliberations. The second decision is to permit the height projection above the building height maximum of 16.46 for the architectural projection. And the condition that staff would recommend here would be that the height projection be constructed in accordance with the submitted elevation drawings and contain no additional story or habitable floor area. These are two independent decisions that the committee has to consider. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Is the applicant here, and does the applicant wish to speak?
Great. Well, let's do. They're going to promote Don Sterrett to a speaking role. Don, make sure your microphone is unmuted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, excellent. Okay. Well, good evening. Thank you all for this opportunity. I don't have anything to add to what Mr. Henderson has said. He stole all of my thunder in his presentation, so I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone might have. And I'm sure everyone has other things to do and other places to be, but happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. So, are there any other persons, either online or here, that wish to speak in favor of the project?
If anyone online wishes to speak in favor of the project or make comments about the project, you can use the hand raise function and I'll promote you to a speaking role. So the hand raise function is at the bottom of your screen and has a little hand symbol.
Okay, we'll ask, and if somebody does put their hand up, they can join in, but we'll ask then if there are any members of the public, either here or online, that wish to speak in opposition to this project. Well, hearing none, then we'll leave it open for them if they haven't, got the message and wanna jump in there, but we'll ask the committee for opinions or comments. At this time, Lorraine,
I looked it all over and it seems straightforward, but is this in a residential area? I'm not familiar with Bud Avenue. Sorry. Is it in a residential area? Is it all commercial?
it's
property?
directly across from the Garcelon Civic Center on the water.
Okay.
There's a new apartment building there as well, in close proximity. So it's along that street,
Okay.
facing St. Croix River and Calais.
And just yeah, nice spot actually. Yeah. Mm.
Okay, so any comments? Yes,
The only question I have, Alex, is if the MDSF were to, for whatever reason, not approve the in the right of way planning of the deciduous trees or whatever, what is there a backup plan for that?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I don't see any concern just based on they've already gone through this with their engineers.
Mhm.
So it's a question now for Jeff and his team to determine how they would handle the encroachment, if it's just going to be a public works approval or they want to have a formal legal encroachment agreement. I would leave that to him to decide. Now, if it gets rejected, like you said, there would be a need to come back to get the parking lot reconfigured. And I don't know what that would mean for if that could affect the project viability or whatnot. But that condition I would recommend to you is to not approve this without there being a formal sign off by the municipal district of St. Stephen for the encroachment.
yeah, the conditions there, so.
But my understanding is they have cleared it with engineering and there's no concerns.
Yeah, I guess the concern is that if it should come back or whatever,
Yeah.
do we have the capacity for the island and the landscaping strips and everything within and still meet the parking regulations?
Well, yeah, and that's a good point. And I think what maybe this is a question for the developer, but 187 parking spaces weren't required to provide that. That's what they felt was needed. So the requirement to have the trees planted also could be looked at if there's no feasible way for them to do it within, based on their snow clearing requirements. Yeah, it's something that PRAC can maybe consider in a future case, but it's right now what's proposed. Staff would have no concerns with proposed.
Does that mean they would eliminate that front row to get the setback?
Like the front row trees there.
Parking.
Park, yeah,
To be able to put.
in theory, yeah, because you can see the property line right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those parking spaces do cross into
Yeah,
the right of way, yeah.
and then they would line up with the other trees on either end as well, and it would still be symmetrical.
In theory, yes, but this is the question of,
Yeah.
how does that impact the project viability and such, yeah.
Well, yeah, okay. That's fine, thank you, Alex. I guess the requirement to have these things already in play before the final sign off or the inspection sort of takes care of that as well. No, that's great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, welcome, Matt. I didn't see you. Do you have any comments?
We just got power back. No, I think the only comment I had, I was looking at the bylaw and the section 4, and the only thing that I had wanted to check is most of the properties, the building and the parking lot, or what are the requirements around the landscaping for like green area for a U3?
Okay, so in cases of like an amenity space, I believe that
So
would
you're
be
essentially just gonna have it all paved. You're gonna have it all built and paved over. Is there, other than the trees, is there any other green space requirements?
bear with me here. Yeah, so the parking would be the main one. In the case of like if this was a apartment dwelling, then there would be a section 4 requirement on having an outdoor amenity space, so an area for people to, like, for children to play or somebody to have a smoke break. But this, in case where it's not, it's a commercial development, that section doesn't come into play.
Okay, yeah, it was just there's a requirement for front or flankage yards. Only up to 40% can be used for the driveway. So that's the driveway parking lot. Just wanted to clarify. I'm assuming you already checked all that.
Yeah, that's no, yeah, the driveway would be specifically the entrance. So what you don't want to have happen is as an entrance that's sort of on the entrance, you can just drive off the street and anywhere. It creates a real messy look. So if you have specific driveway entrances, and so they'd be far less than 40% in this case. So yeah, that wouldn't come into play. Even though I see what you're saying, the it is landscaped and drained, but in this case there's a landscaping feature around the perimeter too. So it's in this case it works.
Okay, no, that was it. Everything else didn't have any concerns with or questions.
Okay, well, if there are no other questions or comments, I personally don't have any issue with anything there. It's great to see some movement on that project, and I don't see any reason to hold it up one more second. So I would call for motions.
I'll make a motion on, what, want to broken down to 1 2 parts?
Yeah, you want to do the first variance
Yeah.
first, and then
I'll make it,
yeah.
okay, I'll make it, I won't go through all the words here, but I make a move that we accept staff recommendations of the variances from the municipal district, St. Stephen zoning bylaw, etc., under that paragraph,
With the conditions.
with the conditions that.
And as written. Okay.
Second.
So what was that?
Around those.
Oh, okay, somebody was trying to get on there. Okay, so it's moved by Brian Cornish, second by Vance. Are we ready for the question? Any other comments? All in favor, signify by raising the right hand, saying aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous. No opposition to it. Congratulations. Motion's passed.
I made a motion, I make a motion on recommendations B, again, we accept staff recommendations and approve it. And the adjustment of been subject to terms and conditions, heights, projections, the roof, etc.
Second.
Okay, moved again by Brian and second by Raymond. Any other comments, questions on this variance? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. Motion carried. Congratulations again to the developer. And good for that. So we'll move to the second item on our agenda now. I think on the agenda is the views on bylaws, regulations, or antenna tower proposals. And do we have somebody here to do?
Yes, we do, Mr. Chair. I'll promote Pauline and Jillian here. Just one moment, Pauline. Just want to unmute yourself.
Excuse me.
Pauline, can you try speaking there?
Hi, Alex. Would you also be able to unmute Evan Turner?
Oh, yeah, just a moment. And actually, if you guys are looking to do a presentation, I might need to promote you to a participant here. Just bear with me for a second. I'm here. And who has the slide deck? Is it Evan?
Yes, this is Evan. I have the slide deck.
Okay, I'll put you on the panelist.
So maybe I spoke out of turn. Did you want to speak?
Yeah, so I'll do a presentation. Sorry, Mr. Chair. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll begin with the presentation and then Pauline and Evan could follow as the applicant there. All right. Right. So, and this file is a different type of file. This is a Industry Canada request or task that we have to provide a view, a letter of concurrence back to Industry Canada. Cell phone towers are a federal jurisdiction, and they are the approver, ultimate approval authority for telecommunications in Canada. So what they do is they ask local land use authorities, planning jurisdictions for an opinion to make sure that they have local compatibility for cell phone tower proposals. And so what you have before you here is a 30-meter shrouded monopole tower at 123 King Street. So for people familiar with the area, it's beside the Dooley's building. You can see a picture there where it be proposed. 30 meters, 100 feet, shrouded in the case that they chosen a color scheme that's meant to blend in with the average sky. The location is considered a high intensity urban zone, so area where you could have a increased population density. And it's a mixed use zone, so it's commercial, residential mix. The proposed construction timeframe would be this fall. And the purpose of this, according to the applicant, is to improve cell service in a very localized area of St. Stephen that, in the view of the applicant, is underserved. As we talked about this is a federal jurisdiction, ultimately. But the Industry Canada process has it so that the proponents of antenna towers have to speak with local land use authorities. And giving the opinion back to Industry Canada is an important part of the process because they need that local view to see what the compatibility is for that particular site. And as I said, your role tonight is to look at it in terms of providing a letter back to Industry Canada. Do you concur with this location? Do you not concur with this location? Or would you concur with the location with some conditions? So those are your options tonight. As well, just to note, we have a protocol. And the protocol is the RC10 antenna siting protocol that was adopted by the Service Commission Board in 2025. Previous to this responsibility still was with the Regional Service Commission, but it was outsourced to a body called CRIMS. And CRIMS is no longer a functional nonprofit entity. It's served in many jurisdictions in Canada. And essentially, they would work with CRIMS and take care of it, and we would never know where cell phone towers were being promoted or considered or such. It was just all outsourced to this third-party entity. So the view was the board that there needed to be this needed to speed up approval for consideration because in various parts of the region there's been decreased cell service, and the view was that if the commission were to do with this, handle this themselves, these concurrence letters, that there was a chance for this process to speed up. With CRIMS, it would have taken 1 to 2 years to get through that process the way it was operating. So we can, look at this with a much quicker turnaround. In this case, what happens, it's not different than pretty much anywhere in New Brunswick or Canada, but what happens is they have a pre-consultation meeting with the Service Commission. And now what I'll say here is this is an application where we actually discourage this location. As a matter of principle, this is a location I said it's an area that anticipates additional population density, meaning there could be more development in this area, more residential development. So as a matter of practice, the protocol says we formally discourage cell phone tower proponents to look at locations like this. It's an industrial park in an urban area which is growing, that's fine. Or similarly, if it was a rural area where you have a lot of subdivision going on, that'd be an area we would discourage a cell phone tower being placed right in the middle. But there can be situations where they're forced to look at locations like this. And the applicant, I think, is ready to speak about that and their alternative siting options and what they looked at and why they settled in this location, why they're asking this to be considered. And so they've made some considerations for the site. Cell phone towers can be include things like the lattice structured towers that can well exceed 30 meters. In certain cases, we've looked at ones that are up to 80 meters tall. But these towers need to be considered, and every time, just because it's discouraged, it doesn't mean that's what you have to decide. You have to look at all the facts before you have to consider all the local context, the considerations for the site. This proposal also had reviews from NAV Canada and Transport Canada Civil Aviation. So in this case, looking at, does this tower require blinking lights at nighttime, for example, for aircraft safety? In this case, it's determined not to. But they still have to work with these partners to make sure that they're notifying when construction begins. So airport navigation is notified. So the proponent also has to do the consultation under this. We don't do the consultation. We're not, while this public meeting is public and members of the public are here to comment on this, it's not a consultation that we're allowed to conduct. So we're not able to do our own public meetings about this. according to the guidelines that Industry Canada gives, the role of consultation lies with the proponent, and they have to follow Industry Canada's protocol. And that's what our local protocol also states. The role of consultation is with the proponent. So in terms of any formal objections that they've received, it's none, but that doesn't mean everyone is on board with it, but it just means that they have not received any formal objections to this. And so I've only heard one person who's spoken verbal support, and that was not even written into the record. So that's basically all we have in terms of the results of the public consultation that was carried out. So the shrouded versus standard. So, you know, a bright white versus a sort of dim color, what would contrast better?
How was that consultation carried out? Was it a
So-
public meeting or?
Yeah, and the applicant, their proponent would speak to that probably more as well, but it's a mail-out and it's a newspaper notification. So it's an ad was taken up the Telegraph Journal.
For a public meeting?
No, just
Oh, it's not
for
public.
public awareness.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So as I said, this is a site that we would discourage. We asked them to look at alternative sites and co-locating, but no suitable alternative could be found. And so considerations are like looking at the proposal itself. You know, it's designed, it doesn't have the bright lights, it doesn't have the, you know, it doesn't have the lattice, this 30 meters is taller than what buildings would be permitted in that zone. But again, it's not within, it's not a significant tall tower like you might see in some more rural locations. The zone does permit you public utility structures, so that doesn't exclude telecommunications. But you know, it's not a explicitly residential zone that this is being promoted in. It's a mixed use zone. So when we look at what would be encouraged, what would be discouraged, you know, there is attempts at mitigation here. There's a couple safeguards here. There's the 3-year limit. The PRAC can also rescind the letter of concurrence. The other one is under our protocol, we expect the proponent to obtain a building permit. That's just a matter of course, and make sure that that structure is on a proper engineered foundation. And they're also required to notify NAV Canada before they start construction, so aircrafter will be aware. All right, so if PRAC agrees, what we'd recommend is that you direct us to draft a letter of concurrence, and we'll send that to the proponent, to Industry Canada and the partners. And we'll just note that, you know, unless we have additional public comment tonight, that the results of the public commentary were this, that we didn't have any written opposition, just one expression of verbal support. And yeah, and that they follow the shrouded design to be more compatible with the zone, and that they obtain all building permits. So here are your options: concurrence, concurrence with conditions, and non-concurrence. And so what I've outlined to you as a recommendation is to provide a letter of concurrence with those expectations written into the letter. With that, I turn it to you, Mr. Chair.
I don't quite understand the concurrence. Concurrence. What do you mean by concurrence?
So
There's no condition there, that I see.
it's concurrence related to the siting of the tower. So do you concur with its location as being compatible with the area?
Just do we agree with it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So it's an opinion to Industry Canada.
Oh, okay, I was confused. I thought you were asking
Yeah.
them for a letter of concurrence.
No, it's the
Okay.
letter from the
Okay.
committee. Sorry.
Okay, so, but we're not going to discuss that until we see the presentation and.
That's your call. Yeah, if you want to wait till the presentation from the proponent.
What do you guys want to do? Yeah, okay. Let's hear the presentation and perhaps the members of the public might like to hear that as well, so. We'll hear what they have to say.
All right, so Evan, if you want, you can make your presentation.
Sounds good. Thank you, Alex. Thanks, members of the committee, through the chair. I just let me get my share screen set up. All right, can everyone see the presentation?
Yes.
Mhm.
All right. Thank you, members of the committee. My name's Evan Turnen. I'm here on behalf of Bell Mobility just to speak about our shrouded monopole telecommunications tower proposal that Alex had just gone over. So we recently completed consultation, as mentioned, for this proposed tower, and we're here this evening to request concurrence. Just a quick introduction. So my name's Evan Turnen. I'm a project manager here at Canacre. We're agents for Bell on this site, handling the acquisition and permitting. Pauline Pangalainen, she's a planner here at Canacre who works with me and is handling this file as well. I don't know if he's in the audience, but we have Paul Green, who's a senior advisor for real estate services at Bell Mobility, who's also here and may be able to answer some questions at the end of the if there's something if it's something I can't answer. So in this presentation, I'm just gonna quickly go over the tower type, network objectives, talk about the tower design and alternate candidates, review the consultation process, and then conclude, and I can answer any questions. So this is the same visual sim that Alex had on his presentation. Here we have it's an example of the proposed tower type, the 30-meter shrouded monopole design. The antennas themselves are shrouded behind that kind of cylinder at the top, so they're not visible, and it creates a smoother, basically a smoother surface, less visual clutter, blends more in with an urban area, and these tower types are relatively common for urban areas, and we typically use them to reduce aesthetic impact. This site aims to improve both coverage and capacity in St. Stephen. So just as a quick background, the equipment on each telecommunications tower has a certain capacity limit for calls and data, and as more and more people are using data and data usage increases, more of these kind of towers that infill the network are required to primarily provide capacity, as opposed to just your general coverage, where you just look at your phone and see like, oh, can I make a call or not? This is to provide the capacity. And as Alex mentioned, both NAV Canada and Transport Canada reviewed the proposal, and Transport Canada indicated no lighting will be required on the tower. So here's the proposed location, just in context. We're in the northeast corner of the property, as Alex mentioned, with the access and utility will run straight from the road to the tower location. Here's just a more zoomed out version showing the tower in context for the broader St. Stephen area. And here's some of the alternate locations we looked at. We detailed these in the information package, but ultimately our proposed site would provide the best coverage and capacity. But we did initially look to the north in the commercial area, but ultimately we weren't able to acquire a site there. When you go for candidates like candidate 4A and B and candidate 5, those were too far away from the area we were trying to cover in the end. They wouldn't provide the capacity needed because they're too far away from users. Ultimately, we have to be close-ish to the people who are using the services. The other candidates typically rejected the proposal as they weren't open to the proposed land use arrangement, didn't want to lease out space or had other plans for their property, and other uses. Yeah, ultimately, most of the candidates were rejected as landowners weren't open to the proposal. But I guess just to reiterate, the current location would provide of all the candidates provides the best coverage and capacity to the area. Here I have the visual simulations that Alex already went over. This is looking at the tower from Main and Queen Street East, just looking southeast towards the property. And this is the visual sim that Alex was referencing, looking directly at the proposal from Main Street. I'll just quickly go over the public consultation process. So as per the protocol, notification mailouts were sent to all landowners within 90 meters of the proposed tower. That's 3 times the tower height, as per ISED's protocol. We posted the notification in a local newspaper, the Telegraph Journal, on the recommendation of the planning department. No comments were received from the public during the public consultation process in our inbox. Alex noted that he received a verbal comment of approval, but that wasn't delivered to us. I guess just to clarify, since there were some questions earlier, how the consultation works is the mailouts are sent in the newspaper ad is published, and folks can comment by submitting their comments, emailing into a consultation inbox, or if they so wish, sending a fax or mail. But I don't think anyone has done that for years. Once consultation was complete, we delivered a record of consultation to the Service Commission, to Alex, and who prepared the report that we just went over. And to wrap up, just want to reiterate, the proposed site is aiming to improve both coverage and capacity in the St. Stephen area. We completed our consultation requirements, ensured all landowners within 3 times the tower height were notified, and published the ad in the local newspaper. I'd also like to quickly thank the Southwest New Brunswick Service Commission staff for their input and collaboration on this process. And finally, Bell Mobility is officially requesting that council deliver a letter of concurrence for our J4540 St. Croix proposed telecommunications tower. Thank you. That's the end of my presentation. I can stop sharing.
Okay. Like Alex had mentioned, this is not a typical file that we have. We don't really have protocol or bylaws for it. If it was like the last file was a variance, so we make amendment, we make room for people to speak and so on. But I think in light of the number of people that we have here, that I will allow the public to ask the Bell representative any questions if you wish.
Sure, I'll go first.
Go ahead.
I got a few. So this tower, where is the closest tower that services St. Stephen presently?
I don't have that information right offhand. My understanding it's pretty far north, closer to the highway. Paul, I don't know if you happen to have that info offhand. You're muted, Paul. Oh, sorry, you're still muted.
Or just sounds not come through.
If you could just give me apologies for delaying, but if you just give me 30 seconds, I could take a look on some publicly available sources.
I do have a question of the public. Did you people receive the notification of the public consultation?
I could neither confirm nor deny because it probably looked like regular Bell Mobility junk mail you get solicitations. It may have, I haven't looked in the recycling bin yet.
Well, it was back in May.
But our neighbors received it, so we should have.
Yeah,
That's all I can say.
Okay,
Yeah.
I wish for future that the letter looks more formal, either with, either the commission or either the town with Bell or something, so that we know it's important, it's not an ad. And it
Well,
isn't
it's-
really our fault, we just thought it was,
Yeah.
an ad,
Yeah.
but to
But
have
it's
something
Bell's
like
process.
this, yeah,
Right.
we don't,
yeah,
Yeah.
we don't do the consultation.
yeah,
It's
Yeah.
Bell,
Right.
so
But
it's something you could say
Okay.
again.
yeah.
just to quickly answer your question, the nearest telecommunications tower is to the west, by kind of where Boundary Street and Union Street meet. Near.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. My second question would be, is this tower considered, or this proposed tower considered a uncontrolled environment with a limit of 50% of safety code 6 limits?
No, it's not.
Oh.
Bell towers have to follow safety code 6 as a condition of license. Telecommunications towers like this typically operate at a fraction of safety code 6 level, but Bell has to comply with safety code 6 at all times, regardless, whatever it says.
Okay. So the range on the frequency on that the proposed tower says 5 kilohertz to 300 gigahertz. So I'm not very tech savvy for that. Just wondering, that's the maximum and minimum? So what do you expect to operate at?
That's just what safety code 6 regulates. The spectrum on the tower will be much narrower. I think Paul would be better placed to answer this question once he if he can get the mic working. But generally it'll be the radio equipment will be on 4 and 5G bands. So the frequencies associated with that. But the 5 to 300 is the basically Health Canada's Safety Code 6 remit. So that's what they govern.
Hi, Evan, can you hear me now?
Yes, hello.
Sorry, I'm trying different headsets here to get audio. If you want me to answer the frequency question, Bell, as all carriers, wireless carriers, are licensed to operate in a number of bands, covering a wide range of the spectrum that you read from the lowest, I forget the number was, up to the highest, which is 300. But suffice to say that all of our cell phones operate in a number of bands in order to provide different grades of service depending on where you are. So, such as outdoors, covering wide, long distances, the frequencies used are very low. Well, I say very low. They're the lower frequencies that we use, such as 600 megahertz to 750, 800 in that area. And then for mixed use in urban areas, we use mid-band frequencies, which are in the 1900 and 2100 bands, or 1.9 gig and 2.1 gig. And then the higher frequencies, which are used for more building penetration, so that your cell phone works inside buildings, inside houses, and that kind of thing. And in dense urban environments, the bands go a little higher, up to 2.6 gigahertz or 2600 megahertz. And we're now operating in 3500 as well, 3.5. And that's where the 5G, the newer services operate. So we operate in a number of these bands depending on where the cell tower is located. Most urban sites, such as this one, will have a mixture of mid-band and high-band for range in the neighborhood that we're serving and also building penetration. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, sounds good. Next one, I'm gonna monopolize everything for a few minutes. So the testing for
No, I don't hear
codes.
anything. Goodness.
Do you want to sit closer?
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
sorry.
the testing for the safety code 6. So how often will those tests be done? Because it borders on a residential area.
The engineering is done for the tower, and we provide, and I believe, Evan, you'd have it in the package, we provide an attestation that the safety code 6 testing has been done at the design of the tower. And when the tower is built then and put on air, the tests are complete, and the engineers check everything and tune the tower, shall we say, in an old-fashioned term, and make sure that the tower is in compliance. And then when maintenance is done or when changes are made, safety code 6 is often redone. I don't know what the recurrence is of the testing, but anytime there are changes made or repairs or maintenance done to the tower, safety code 6 is always checked, and there's a certain recurrence requirement by license that we have to do. So,
Okay.
Evan,
And
do you
the
have
last-
the attestation in the package, Evan?
I was provided to Alex. I don't have it offhand, but
Well, but no, we do it. So it's in. It will. If it's not
Yes.
in the package, it will be in the package. It's provided as part of our municipal submission. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. I sent it over to Alex, and I'm sure he can get that to you if you prefer.
Okay. And I guess the last thing would be like the IC Canada Client Procedure Circular 2-0-03 for, you guys know what it is.
Yes.
There's a little concerning paragraph back in 7.2. And talks about by keeping broadcasters aware of planned developments and changes to adjacent land use, they will be better able to work with the community. Equally, land use authorities, which would be the Regional Service Commission here, or maybe the Municipal District of St. Stephen, have a responsibility to ensure that those moving into these areas, whether prospective residents or industry, are aware of the potential for their electronic equipment to malfunction when located in proximity to an existing broadcasting installation. So does that provide an obligation to the Regional Service Commission or the town to continually advise people whether we know they're coming to the area or not? It seemed like, and I guess what kind of electronic equipment would be interfered with by this potential tower?
I think that 7.2 is referring in particular to broadcasting, which would be radio and television. But in a more general sense, wireless telecoms, of course, operate as a transmitter as well. But without getting too technical, cellular and wireless telephony operates at a much lower power than broadcast. So interference issues are dealt with, of course, and it can happen if there's a malfunction in equipment or what have you. But our equipment typically operates at 100 of watts or a couple of hundred watts off of a cell tower versus a broadcast transmitter might be 100,000 watts. A television transmitter could be 50 to 100,000 watts. An FM transmitter could be 25 to 100,000 watts. So the difference is quite stark. And I think that that paragraph is referring to that, to broadcasting undertakings.
Okay, so you think it wouldn't have any effect on personal medical equipment?
No, indeed, I don't. But in the unlikely event that something occurs or an event happens, if something malfunctions, then it's dealt with immediately. As soon as we monitor sites for performance and for their effectiveness, if there's something discovered or if something malfunctions, then the unit is taken off the air and repaired or replaced as necessary. So, it's suffice to say, we all have cellular coverage throughout our urban areas of Canada now. In Atlantic Canada, there's somewhere in the area of 1,500 transmitters for wireless telephony, and very, very few issues of, I won't say never, because things can happen, but there's very, very few issues of interference or problems. In fact, hospitals and medical facilities have an abundance of wireless communications within their walls.
Yeah, and yeah, just to add to that, there's some hospitals where the telecommunication service, the antennas will physically just be built into the building and be broadcasting as an internal system to provide service in a high use location. And telecommunications installations are very, very frequently in urban areas, and I guess mostly in urban areas because that's where the usage is. And they'll frequently be on rooftops on antennas like the
we use a lot of we have a number of hospitals in Atlantic, in New Brunswick in particular, and all over Atlantic, where we're using hospital rooftops for these cellular installations. We've got probably more than a dozen. There could be a couple of dozen hospitals in Atlantic Canada that are being used for this type of installation.
We've got a hospital here you could have used.
We looked at it.
Yeah,
we looked at it. It wasn't as ideal a location as this one. Evan mentioned it earlier, and Alex may have referred to it. These cellular towers, as we refer to them, these cellular facilities, have to be located where the users are. Once upon a time, when cellular first started 30 years ago, we put a tower on a mountaintop and it would cover a wide area. Nowadays, we're using our cell phones for so much more than was ever imagined 30 years ago. And the demands on the system are so much greater, and the requirements to push through a transmitter and a receiver are so much greater. So we have to be where the users and where the demand is. And that, believe it or not, is significantly in residential areas. So we have to provide services. We get complaints from people who can't use their cell phone in their basements or in certain parts of houses, in certain developments, because the towers are a little too far away, or the houses are built these days so tightly that it's hard to get things, that kind of thing. So we're trying to address that these days with a number of different technologies, including this.
Thank you for your answers.
Thank you.
Thanks for your questions.
Okay.
Anyone else?
So I approach. Sorry for my cell phone earlier. What is the noise level of the proposed tower?
Paul, I don't know if you want to add to this, but
About zero.
yeah, it's just the noise. Any noise would come from the equipment cabinet at the base of the tower, and that's
and
just a typical.
It's virtually zero. On some electrical equipment, if you're standing next to it, might exhibit a slight hum from an electrical. There's power supplies, there's electrical equipment on city streets these days. Most of it is completely inaudible, and our equipment is similar. We monitor if there's a noise, if there's a problem with a site, then it's dealt with. Sometimes you'll get wind blowing through a tower. You may get a noise when the wind blows at a certain velocity and that kind of, but it's, we deal with those type of problems when they occur. But the tower as it stands, there is no noise.
So the people who resides by the tower and the windows are open at night, you don't hear anything.
Oh my goodness, no, 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 no.
Okay.
There's no
Okay.
noise, no.
Okay, and because I know you mentioned earlier that you were having some challenges to find a spot for that proposed tower, have you contacted the town of St. Stephen, the municipal district of St. Stephen, to see if they can help to find a very ideal spot that might be even better than the one right now? That would be more aesthetic and, like we want to keep our town beautiful and and it's important too for the
Yeah, of course.
residents.
We did a pre-consultation meeting, and at that time, I believe, Evan, if you have the date handy, we usually ask the town if they have a suggested location. Along with that, I'd like to state, though, that our search areas these days, as we refer to them, and this is a search, until we build this, it's considered a search area. They're very small. We have a tower or facility downtown near the border crossing, I believe, and there's another one on one of the mountaintops nearby, which we share with one of the government departments. But nowadays, we have to, as I said earlier, we have to put our facilities and our capacity where the users are and where the demand is coming from. And oftentimes, that might be right in the middle of a town, or in this case, in a neighborhood. That might be well spaced out in a commercial area, but it also might be very tight in a residential area. But that's where the demand comes from. So we have to be as close to that as we can get. So our search area is very limited, shall we say.
Just to add to what Paul was saying, yeah, we had the pre-consultation meeting with the town. We discussed their proposal, discussed our basically where we're trying to cover, and look at sites and go over what was not viable and what was. But for example, the town suggested the hospital rooftop, which was brought up earlier, which we did look at, and unfortunately wouldn't have provided the sufficient coverage or to fill the gap, or been viable. But yeah, we did do a pre-consultation meeting with the town. I don't know if Alex, you want to add anything to this, but we reviewed all the alternate sites.
Yeah, and so just for your reference too, so I would have relayed this information to administration at the municipal district too, so they were aware. When we meet regularly, I keep them informed of all these types of matters. So yeah, as I said, formally, we discourage this location given the proximity of residents like yourself. But yeah, like I said, this is something where doesn't mean it cannot. There's no way there can be concurrence given. It just means that we really, really want them not to consider this if at all possible. But at this kind of thing, they might have to, given their limited options for siting. So
Okay. And my last question for curiosity, did you deal with other little towns like municipal district of St. Stephen in the past? And did you put such towers in the center of the little city? And what
yes.
was the after, and what do you do a follow-up with the residents and also the businesses afterwards? Like, do you have any comments on that?
We're working right now. We're in a process for the past about 2 years, and for the next 1 to 2 years, the process we're going through is called densification. We're adding capacity to our network. In Bell's case, the other carriers are doing something similar to add densification, to add capacity to the network to allow for the greater demands, not only of a greater as the population grows, but as the greater demands of people using their phones for more functions. And I just made notes earlier. If we go home tonight, if one of us goes home tonight and decides to order takeout food from a restaurant and DoorDash, there's about a 95% chance you're going to use your cell phone for that. In fact, it might be 100% chance. In order to provide those services by the restaurant, by DoorDash or Skip the Dishes or whoever you want to use, you have to have cellular coverage. And we can stretch that out to, if you order a pizza tonight, either you are going to use your cell phone or the delivery driver is going to use a cell phone to get the pizza to you. So it gets down to that level, you know. Your other question about follow-up, we don't follow up directly with people in the direct neighborhood, but we rely on our customer service. We do get a lot of comments and feedback through our customer service lines about performance of the cell network, but to call a spade, we almost never get positive comments. We only find out if there's a problem, so we have to we answer certain questions, you know. But no, once the tower is built, then we maintain it and try to keep the performance operating at its peak. And we also use the other towers in the area are all adjusted to allow for the new facility so that everything works together. So that there may end up being 4 towers servicing the St. Stephen area. They're all tuned and tweaked to make sure that they're providing proper service, so that the overlaps are correct and that kind of thing, you know.
And just
Is it possible?
sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay, I just wanted to add in, just mention that it is it's relatively common to have these nowadays for installations to be in urban areas. For example, I'm in an apartment right now. I have antennas just on the apartment building across from me, providing service to my apartment. And so that often on rooftops in towers like these, and we're actually working on one right now in a similarly residential area in Charlottetown. That'll be North River Road for your reference, Paul.
Oh, right, Cheyenne. Yep.
Yeah.
The other thing I can say about small communities, I'm in Newfoundland, and we're currently working on 4 tower projects in very, very small communities. In all 4 of these cases, the community, the land use authority, the town or the local service district are very much in favor, because the general attitude is they're looking for better cell coverage. A lot of places, especially in rural parts of Newfoundland, where I am, in New Brunswick, where you are, there are many areas that are very underserved. Some areas have no coverage whatsoever. So it seems like the smaller the community, the more positive the reactions are from both the local council and from the public, you know.
And my last, it's maybe a suggestion, it's a question, but as follow-up, when you do maintenance, for all those people around the area that we receive a letter, to just give us a letter and say, okay, we checked and it's still respecting the safety guidelines, you know, for health concerns about the frequency of it.
No, we don't send out notifications about that. We're required by license to maintain to the standard for our license under Industry Canada, or ISED as it's called these days. And that's done on a regular basis. Monopole towers like this one are inspected. I think it's every 5 years for structural. But it's safe to say that every tower in our network gets attention, whether it be maintenance or check or what have you. I'll almost say annually. It's almost annually. It's certainly every 2 years. We're making a change, we're making an adjustment, or doing a general check. Our technicians are visiting sites. I believe it's annually. In fact, it might even be more often than that, just to make a general check over everything's working as it should. In the case of lighting, as we mentioned, if the light is working, in this case, there won't be a light. But yeah, it's done on a regular basis by our technical staff. Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Questions.
Steve? Oh,
I think you've answered most of my questions. There's just a couple of comments. Actually, the first one's a question. What's the circumference range of the tower?
The search area, I think it's approximately 500 meters. That's a very general statement. That's not to say that coverage will cut off, but
Yeah.
the search area we looked for for these type of sites has generally been down to less than a kilometer. The coverage area of the tower is more than that. I'm just looking at the map and I'm seeing one over on Boundary Road was mentioned earlier. There's one down on Pleasant Street, which is servicing a wider area because it's a little further away. And this one, once it goes in place, will be more in the center of town. But all the towers are tuned to work together so that handoffs are done and that kind of thing. And the coverage will overlap to a certain degree. So it's safe to say in this case, probably 2 to 3 to 4 kilometers for range of the tower.
Yeah,
So
and
thank you. So if we develop to the east, do you see the necessity for another tower on to the east of the town?
Ultimately, if development explodes, the answer is going to be yes.
Okay.
More people, more development, more activity, commercial or residential or otherwise, means more demand on the wireless network. There is a certain amount of growth available in all of our sites, including this one, so we can add to it as the next few years develop. But if there was a huge housing development created to the east, then I would say, in all likelihood, yes, there need to be something put in.
Yeah. So another question: are you sharing this with your competitors?
Yes, the general answer is yes.
Okay.
We are required for co-location. We also look to see if there's any other towers available, but our towers are made available. Now, not all towers can handle another carrier. Some of the smaller towers simply don't have enough room on them. And this one is only 30 meters high. It's possible it could carry another carrier. But the general attitude is yes, we work with other carriers all the time. Rogers, in particular, in New Brunswick, Eastlink, and us, we work together as well on a lot of sites. Yeah.
And my concern there was just that if you stick a tower there now, Rogers comes in next week and wants to put a tower right beside it, and you have a cluster of towers springing up in the middle of the residential area, it starts to get very cluttery.
Yeah, it does. And I won't say that doesn't happen because we've probably all seen a place where there might be two towers next to each other, which is curious. The only thing I can suggest is that carriers are required to look for an existing tower. If it can handle an extra carrier, then they're required to work with each other to try and achieve that. If it can't be done, then perhaps a new carrier coming in would make our tower a bit bigger to handle more capacity. And it would be it gets into cost and all that kind of thing. But in some cases, yes, they do indeed build a second tower, but it doesn't happen often in urban. And then they have to go through this same process again, in which case you could question to say, well, there's a bell tower there the street over. Why don't you use that? And, so they'd have to go through the same process again for review and concurrence, right? So.
Sorry, just one more question and then a comment. A question from one of my neighbors asked, what happens in a windstorm is what's the potential of the tower to fall over on their house?
I won't give you a number.
That's very small.
It's very small. The towers are built and engineered to CSA standards, the Canadian Standards Association. And let me say this, we spend a lot of money on not only on the construction of the tower, on the concrete that goes in the ground underneath the tower, on the towers themselves. Bell in particular builds its towers heavier than some other carriers for a couple of reasons. Weather is one of them, but the other reason is to allow for co-locations in future or for future growth. So our towers are a little heavier, but also in Atlantic Canada, well, Newfoundland in particular, has the highest wind and ice loading in all of Canada.
Yeah, I've been through the wreck house.
There you go. So we're well used to the weather conditions and the wind loading. So the towers are built heavier to withstand that. Can something ever happen? Nobody would ever say no, it can never happen, because we can't control, ultimately. But however, the towers are built to government standards and maintained to those standards rigorously, and it costs a lot of money to do so. But however, it's done by government regulation, and because that's the standard that Bell works to anyway. So
Yeah, and ultimately, it's in no one's interest if anything happens to the tower.
no, of course.
Of course, yeah. No, that was a question that was posed as I was at the door. Last was just a comment about the way the public consultation process. Tonight, we got some really good answers to a lot of questions, which is really positive. But the way the notification went out, it looked like junk mail, and for instance, a number of people are serviced by your competitors. So anything that comes in from Bell, usually, unless it's highly objectified, just ends up in the recycle bin. And
I
a lot
understand.
of people, yeah, and newspapers are falling off the edge of the cliff of readership.
We're currently going through a process with Industry Canada where they are revising the regulations that we work to, the CPC document that was referred to earlier. And we're working with them now since the winter to make adjustments. We know newspapers don't get much readership anymore, so we've started using Facebook posts. Some communities have Facebook pages or notification. So that happens in some cases, and we go through that in the pre-consultation. And we know the junk mail, and that is actually addressed in the new changes that they're proposing. They're trying to figure out ways because we can't get to certain places. Sometimes we have to knock on a door and provide the piece, directly. But anyway, it's under review, and yeah, I think improvements will be coming.
And another
soon.
option that we've started using in the more recent past is publishing the notice on municipal websites as well.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, municipalities will have like a kind of like, here's all the development going on, and especially when there's no newspaper available, that's often been the substitute that's preferred by the municipality.
Oh, you have a
that's just
cell
another
network,
example.
Do you put it on the phones? You've got access to a cell network, do you put it on the phones?
Not directly, because that's very strictly controlled, as you might imagine. But we do use Facebook, and through the municipality, that's one of the things being considered now. We've done it in the past. We've published our notification on the town's web page, and on if some towns have Facebook presence, and we've used that as well in certain cases. Those small communities are referred to. That's what we did in those small communities here in Newfoundland.
Doesn't seem like it would be insurmountable. I mean, I get offers from Bell all the time on my phone. Why couldn't I get a notice?
You absolutely do. I'm not sure you want to get this kind of stuff on your phone, but anyway, it's one of the things being considered, yeah.
And ultimately, we need to try and get everyone within that area. And unfortunately, not everyone's a Bell customer. So we'd like to.
I don't know what you mean, Evan. Well, how do you mean? What do you mean?
I also offer council as making a public presentation of council. It's covered by radio, television, and print.
Yeah.
And so even if you zoom in on a call, it would get people's attention, and the town can put it on its Facebook page too. So
we could look at updating our protocol, so that's something that we require locally. It's something
a lot of towns have done that.
Yeah. But historically, our council's been accused of being secretive and just popping these things out at the last minute. And so the more transparency we can have at the beginning, the less questions that actually come up during these kind of meetings.
Okay,
it's a good back and forth. We appreciate the interaction.
Yeah, thank you very much. You've answered all my questions.
Thank you, Steve. Heather,
Thank you.
Right up here.
Hello. Since I'm probably the closest residential property that will be to this tower, there has been questions asked that I had concerns about. My backyard will be looking at this tower.
Are you on Princess Street?
Queen Street East.
Queen Street, okay.
So it looks like the tower is going to be directly behind my property, between myself and Dooley's. I guess the question was asked by Carol about noise. So that is a concern, because when I'm home sitting in my backyard, I don't really want to listen to a whistling noise. And another thing is the structure, just a concern of what I'm gonna be looking at. I have to keep my property, at a certain, non-eyesore for the town of St. Stephen, respectively, or by code. Just wondering if there is a picture of what I'm gonna be kind of looking at. And another thing was mentioned about, if there is an issue. You said you can call Bell. We all know how we love to call 800 numbers. And I don't have time for that most days. So as being that close to this tower, I would just feel comfortable having an email that goes directly to someone that would deal with an issue, or a phone number that could be called that's maybe not giving out to your 5,000 residents of St. Stephen, but to people that are close enough that might have a reason to need to speak to somebody.
Okay, I can answer most of those questions. Looking at the houses on Queen Street East, you're about 150 meters away. So while you will see the thing, if you're in that house, I'm looking at the mapping there now, and there is one or possibly two houses that might see right across that open expanse of vacant. I'll call it vacant land. I don't know what's there if it's indeed vacant. There's some trees there as well, so maybe that'll cover. But you may see the tower. I'm not going to use the word guarantee, but our towers don't make any noise typically. If you were to discover that there's a noise coming from the tower, we'll see that as a flaw or a problem, and we'll have it addressed. We can provide what we call our landlord relations number. Yes, it's an 800 number. It's not published because it's used by people we are renting to. So in this case, the landlord of the site will have it, but we can easily give you that number that if you discover there's a problem, that's a number you can call. Aesthetically, the tower, well, as in the photo simulations that were provided, Evan, if you wanted to pop one back
I
up.
can share it again if
The tower is planned to be white in color, I think. Sometimes we do green when they're in a forested or a tree area, but in this case, we thought the white might fit in a little bit better. The towers, we've got a bunch of these already in certain, there's a good picture. So we think it blends in fairly well. The light standards in the parking lot are actually brown or Duranotic color. So we find in almost every one of these that I've worked on in the last 15 years, you'll see this when it goes up and you'll see a crane there and it'll look daunting the day it goes up. But after a week, I would suggest to you, most people that live in these areas don't see them anymore. They tend to blend in with the environment. It's part of the municipal infrastructure. There's utility poles everywhere, which carry your power lines and your communication lines, whether they're fiber or copper, what have you. There's light standards all over the place, including this parking lot. So this just becomes one more piece of infrastructure that's serving the community, So we think it'll fit in fairly well.
And this property is owned by, I believe, someone that's not located in St. Stephen, if I'm correct. And
That's not a fair question. That's business stuff. It
okay.
doesn't matter who owns it.
No, but I'm just bringing this up because you
Well,
said
we're not gonna allow you to bring that. Okay,
I just know there's multiple other.
Well, it's
locations that
not
were
relevant
denied.
to this discussion.
Okay.
So.
I guess that's it then.
Thanks for your questions.
Okay, so does the committee have any?
I can speak to the towers because I have two across from my house that are 1,000 feet tall and I don't notice them at all now. And they've been there I've been there for 42 years now, and they're that long.
Well, I know personally, I mean, everybody has different opinions on what things look like and. I don't profess to make my opinion any better than anybody else's, but if I can remember a few years ago, when people had these big ugly, 15-foot satellite dishes on their roofs and the big towers up for the TV channels and everything, so that's minor to me. So that's my opinion on, as far as the aesthetics go, I don't find anything there unacceptable. Now, the other questions about the megahertz and all this stuff, I'm not an expert on that, so I won't give an opinion on it, but Brian, you've had some experience with that stuff, and Mark had good questions there, so if you got any comments on that end of it.
I
I mean, the
don't,
guy says it doesn't make any noise.
I don't want to show my ignorance or my lack of knowledge from the past, but I used to work in the telecommunication business for a number of years. One thing that the audience here did not bring up, and I thought they might, but on you people online, you're probably familiar with the word microwave. And basically, my going back to the big dishes, and when we found out on my office was next to the tower, and we found out the microwave passing through the buildings or close to it caused a lot of health problems. And if you talk about induction off of basically high lines, a lot of cancer, I guess, I'm sorry, it's like Donald Trump now, but a lot of cancer seem to be affected by living underneath the high line because the induction is more than 30 inches on a 7200 versus 100,000 volts. So basically, I just want to make sure that the audience understands. I think I do. And I want to show that maybe you may be asked this question, but if you can remember in the old days, I don't see anybody on there probably remembers, maybe the one man in the middle may remember microwave towers and dishes. But one time, if you put your ear next to a tube coming off a microwave, you've been stone deaf for the rest of your life. So anyway, the other thing is just these towers, I do not believe, but you'll have to answer the question on that to the public, is that there's anything coming off of those towers basically that would cause any health reasons? And I can't think of any, but you guys, the experts in this field, my field's gone bye-bye now. And I'd just like to hear you say that these things are healthy. There's no way of any type of signals coming off that actually be damaging to any human being.
Yes, there's a number of publications. Let me just say at the outset that health issues concerning radiation and radio communications are dealt with by Health Canada. It's another federal department, of course. Bell and all telecommunications providers are required to operate under very strict rules and conditions of license for the performance of its facilities. Questions about health have to go to Health Canada beyond ISED. ISED can answer technical questions, but they're not within the purview of a land use authority. They're beyond that. So a local town, city, in this case, a regional service district, doesn't deal with health related questions. Like I say, we provide the safety code 6 attestation that the tower is operating within the required guidelines that the federal government sets, and that's including this tower and all of our towers. It doesn't have microwave on it, but if it did, that is part of the safety code 6 requirements as well. And well, the other, anecdotally, I can tell you that most of our safety code 6 documentation tells you that cellular infrastructure operates far less than the maximum allowed by law. So just to use general language, because you had some experience in the business, if a certain transmitter is permitted to operate at 1,000 watts of transmitted power, we're typically operating at 1/10 of that, sometimes 50% of that. It's usually far less than the regulated maximum. But having said that, there are a number of frequencies in use. They go from 600 megahertz these days up to 3,500 with the newest technologies. But like I say, it's all regulated. That's regulated by Industry Canada at a different level than this. This is a land use authority function and a consultation function. And health issues are handled by Health Canada. I've got a document here called Health Canada Roles and Responsibilities, Electromagnetic Fields and Safety Code 6. That's a publicly available document that deals with a lot of those questions. But yeah, and there's other ones as well.
Okay, I understand what you're saying. You come from an engineering background. Health is a different issue, and I can't answer those questions either. I don't have any questions on them. But they may come up from residents because it is a logical question, because rumors or what those things have been going around for at least 50 years or more. The other thing I was just going to make sure that I understood, most of your towers, Bell's, Rogers, whatever, that they're shared. And I think you made it perfectly clear. I just want to make sure to the audience that, and also our boards and things here, that you're putting up a bell tower. Rogers might be on it, but if Rogers decides to put another tower in, they have to go through the same format that you went through.
Yes,
So there
indeed.
is a possibility, there is a possibility then, that what you're saying is that Bell would put a tower up like this, and Rogers may not, or may share it, or there could be others, Expertet, I don't know, whatever, could be sticking towers around similar to this, at Hockley, I guess the only word I can use.
Well, he answered that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I want to make that perfectly clear that this could be a one, anything else comes along has to go through approval, same as they do.
Yeah.
Okay, and there's
Yeah,
nothing to do with Rogers or anybody else, but just want to make sure that where you go into new technology, I'm sure everybody else is starting to follow it also. There could be other applications over the next time.
Yeah, well,
And you did clarify that. I just want to make sure that you people.
So did Alex, so let's move on from
Okay.
that. Yeah.
I think that's probably, I made enough notes, but I think all the people who answered the questions anyway, but thank you very much.
They're good questions, Brian.
Thank you for your questions. Yeah.
Insurance pays off there. Raymond Vance.
I just don't know that. You got 8 participants online. Anybody there speaking?
Yeah. So that's Paul's other account. So yeah, everyone you've seen is.
Yeah, I think we're all.
Yeah, that's everyone.
No, everybody's covered. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I have nothing to say.
Hey, Matt.
No, I mean it's I think there's no light on it, so that helps at night for not having visually, and it, I think, but like Paul said, it's always a bit of a trade-off. We want this service, and the downside is you sometimes see the infrastructure, but I think no concerns on the concurrence, and it's it's half residential, half commercial, so I think it's probably as good a spot as any in town right now. So, yeah.
Okay, Lorraine.
No, I think everything was well explained, and I've taken a lot of notes for future reference when things come around at our area. So, which we will be looking at things like this in the future too. So, no, they've answered all the questions quite well, actually. A lot of good questions too.
Yeah, they were all good questions from everybody, and we appreciate the input. I would just say that, Paul mentioned, based on capacity and everybody using, we use all kinds of apps and all that stuff on our phones now. When I got my first cell phone, didn't have internet and all that, I live out in the country in Buckeye, I had no problem whatsoever. Now I have to take my phone outside the house sometimes to use it, so I'm all for more coverage. And if that's, personally, I'd be willing to put up with, looking at something that maybe wasn't, attractive to me. It's either that or not have the service, is kind of what you're saying. I just want you to clarify that again. And there were some illusions from the audience on questions as to why couldn't it go somewhere else. So if it's just a question of coverage, then I understand that. But tell me that it's not a question of cost. Is this the cheapest place to put it? Or is it because you need it for the coverage? That's
one of the things I'd like to say, if I may. One of the things I like to say at these presentations, these meetings, is that Bell, speaking for Bell, but the other carriers operate in similar ways. There's 3 reasons we put in a cell tower. whether that be a tower like we're proposing here, whether it be a lattice tower like was mentioned earlier, which might be a little further away from the center of town, but they're not as aesthetically pleasing, or it might be a rooftop with antennas on it like a hospital or an office building or an apartment building. But there's three reasons why any of these facilities are put in place. The first one is coverage, and that's all anybody looks at with their phone is have I got coverage or not? But that's only 1/3 of the equation for the carrier. The second thing, which everybody knows because it's their experience, is the capacity. You may not realize it, but if you drop a call on your phone, it might be because you're in a bad area, but why are you in a bad area? That's the question we have to answer, that we are answering. Is the facility we have in an area of that town providing the proper coverage for the infrastructure that's there? If you're in a concrete apartment building, a brick and steel apartment building, our signal is not going to get in as well. If you're in the basement of a house, of a 2-story house like I am, my coverage is not ideal here because I'm not very close to a particular cell tower. Anyway, that's the capacity issue. The third issue related to that is performance. You might get a signal out to call the Uber, to call your spouse, to call for service, whatever. But how good was the phone call? Or how long did it take that text to go through? Or did it have to go through the second time? Or if you're trying to do an Uber or order a pizza or search for a part of Canadian Tire, if you're having to redo keystrokes and do different things, that's the performance end of it. Have we got enough capacity to provide? Is the capacity adequate to get into the building that you're in or the area located? Anyway, to make a long story short, those are the three reasons we do. We have coverage in St. Stephen today. The coverage is not ideal and there's growth. So the capacity is not there to serve those customers as well as it should. And then we want the customers we're trying to serve, we want them to have the best experience we can provide them with. So we have to provide enough signal at different bands to provide the level of the quality of service that we're trying to do, right? So anyway, that's a little speech I like to make usually at the beginning of the process, but in any event, hopefully it gives you a little bit more understanding.
It does give me more understanding as to how the system works and what coverage you need. I guess I'll put the question a little bit more basic. Would a taller tower further away provide the same performance that you're trying to provide?
Probably not. Probably not.
No, that's all I need.
Yeah, in the dense environment of an urban, whether that be residential, in this case it is, and with the commercial that's around it, we need to provide a certain amount of capacity. As we move away, the ability to provide that capacity diminishes because we're going down in frequency and that kind of thing. And, the best performance is within 1 to 2 kilometers of any cell tower now today with 5G coverage. 5G coverage doesn't reach beyond 3 or 4 kilometers.
Okay. Yeah, the only reason I asked that is that, as we're representing the public here as well, and
Absolutely.
that would be a basic question that people that haven't heard your answers tonight would say, well, how come they didn't put it out in the country? They put it there because they only had to put up a 30-foot tower, and in the country they would have had to put up a 500-foot one. So
well, and you can rest assured that the 500-foot tower costs us probably $1.5 million to do. This one will cost somewhere in the area of between $600,000 and $800,000. So the cost, while it's not $1.5 million, it's still quite substantial.
Oh, really?
The difference in rent is made up for in construction costs. It's everything is relative.
Yeah,
we have a large tower. Go ahead, Evan.
I just wanted to add that leasing space and leasing land in an urban area is more expensive than leasing land out in a rural area, which can adds to that what Paul mentioned and starts to offset that cost differential.
Yeah.
Thanks very much for the answers, and
thank you.
I think pretty well wrap it up if there's no more questions.
I think the information helped us for the next one that comes along.
Sure, yeah.
It made a big difference.
Yeah.
for us.
This is our first.
Well, I mean, nothing's perfect. Some people, have concerns with health, some people have concerns with aesthetics and so on, but the need is there based on their presentation. There doesn't seem to be a better place to put it. And so the option is not to put it there and have continuing bad service.
So, comment,
Sure.
Mr. Chair, just both for the audience and both for the audience here. And of course, both high ranking mayor here in town, another counselor. Basically, to get beyond your neighborhood, whether 1,000 feet or 1,500 feet, there's probably gonna be more questions asked. And we're mentioned the word transparency, and I think I'm fairly familiar with that word over the last 4 years. But you've heard a lot of questions here tonight that they did not hear.
Yeah.
We've asked questions that we didn't know. It, just a thought recommendation is that you or both these get together, you may want to make a transparent presentation based on all the questions that were asked. I think they got most of the answers, so they should be able to put the pumpkin pretty quickly to share that in 10 or 15 minute presentation. I'll shut up now and go back to sleep.
Okay, well, let's get back to the task at hand. Get back to the task at hand, and my understanding, Alex, is that at this time we would ask for a consensus from the committee members.
It would be similar to like a view on a bylaw that you give to a council, and in this case, you're giving a view to Industry Canada. So
do we have a consensus that we concur with the presentation? That's the question, isn't it?
and concur, it's exciting.
Exciting,
Yes. But when we have three options, so you're looking at the first option.
We're looking at concurrence.
Yes.
The three options for concurrence, non-concurrence, and the third was not agreeable, or is that the third option?
Yes,
Concurrence with conditions, I think was.
Concurrence with conditions, okay.
Okay, so does everybody think concurrence?
Yeah, I
Matt?
agree. Yep, concurrence.
Okay. All right, then, so
All right.
we'll end, thank you, Lorraine. Okay, so we'll end this, we'll bring this file to an end here then, and, I'll draw staff to draw up a letter of concurrence, and we'll forward it on.
Yep.
Thank you, Paul and Evan, for the
Thank you.
presentation. It was, we did have some questions, whether we would do it or not, because it's not we don't regularly let people present at our meetings, but, we thought it was a good idea to do it, or I did at least, and, I think it was helpful to everybody, so. Thank you
We
very
think a
much.
good interaction is a healthy process, and we appreciate the opportunity to answer questions and to present it in as best a way as we can. And we're always available, like I say, through the town and through Canacre. We'll provide that 800 number and an email address for anybody who wants to contact us to ask questions in the future, if you so desire. It's in the mail out that Evan can provide, and the town can give that out if they want to. But certainly that's available for anybody who wants to ask.
Yep.
Okay,
I think Alex has a digital. Oops, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think Alex should have a digital copy that he can pass out. If that's not available, just let me know.
All right. Okay, then, thanks very much. So that concludes all of our applications and so on. So if there's nobody trying to stay, they'll stay, but you're welcome.
Thank you very much for letting us tonight.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
And I'll send that letter of concurrence tomorrow, so you guys will get a copy.
Thank you very
Okay,
much
so-
once again. Appreciate your time and efforts.
Well, I think it sets a good, it starts a good base for people to know that some of the neighbors have got to know you and hear you and so on, then when things do come up in the future, it's a lot easier, I think, to discuss them, having both parties, start this communication. So thanks again, and we'll move on now to item number 6, which is PRAC Business. I don't have any. Alex doesn't have any, that's good. Which means we still have our jobs. So much meeting anyway. So
We get overtime?
Well,
Don't answer that.
budget's pretty tight this year, you notice,
Yeah.
there's no sheets or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see that.
Anyway, next meeting, regular, third Thursday of the month, August 20th.
Yep.
2026, 6:30 PM, item number 8,
I move we adjourn.
so moved. That's it.
Have a good night, everybody.
We done.
Yeah.
Thanks, everybody. Okay.